In section 1, we discussed why retrospectives fail structurally. We saw that action items live outside the sprint workflow, which guarantees they get forgotten. Now, in this section, we shift to decision-making. How do you decide which problems deserve your team's limited improvement capacity? Because here is something most Scrum Masters realize about 3 months into the role. Here's the scenario. You're in Sprint Retrospective, the team is engaged, they are identifying real problems that generally hurt their ability to deliver, right? And then you notice a pattern. The deployment pipeline needs approval from infrastructure. The cross-team dependency requires architectural decision 3 levels above. The tooling limitation needs procurement budget you don't control. So issue after issue lands in the same category, things the team cannot fix alone. And this is where sprint retrospective fatigue actually begins. Not when teams stop caring, but when they realize most of what they identify requires organizational support they cannot command. The data confirms what you've probably already experienced. Between 70 and 80% of meaningful problems raised in sprint retrospectives fail outside the team's direct control. And these are legitimate issues, real impediments. The team isn't complaining about trivial things, but they need leadership decision-making, budget allocation, cross-team coordination. Okay? And here is what makes this dangerous. When action items require organizational support the team doesn't have, those items fail regardless of team commitment. The team agrees to improve something, they write it down, they assign an owner, and then nothing happens because they literally lack the authority to change it. Stephen Covey named this problem decades ago in a different context. He called it a circle of influence. Covey said there are 3 circles: things you can control directly, things you can influence through a persuasion, and things you are concerned about but cannot impact. Most people, he said, waste energy trying to control what they can only influence or worry about what they cannot affect at all. Teams in retrospectives do exactly this. They spend 20 minutes discussing a deployment bottleneck they cannot fix, creating action items that die because the solution requires someone else's decision. And that's why this course teaches you to apply Covey's framework to retrospective problem solving with a tool we call locus of control analysis. It's a simple 4-quadrant framework that separates what your team can fix from what requires organizational change. Okay, so quadrant 1, briefly, is team solvable and high impact. These are improvements within the team's direct control that deliver meaningful results. For example, reducing PR review time by setting a maximum PR size guideline. This is where 80% of your improvement energy should go. Quadrant 2 is team solvable but low impact. Things the team should fix but don't move the needle significantly. Reorganizing Jira board labels, for instance. These get batched into quarterly housekeeping or delegated to volunteers. Quadrant 3 is organizational dependent but worth escalating. Important issues require leadership support, like needing another test environment, which requires budget approval. Here is the key distinction. Influence does not mean the team executes the change. It means the team frames the problem so someone with authority can decide. This needs proper escalation with business impact framing. Not complaints in retrospectives, but structured escalation to appropriate stakeholders. And quadrant 4 is organizational dependent and low impact. corporate security policy prevents local admin access, and that's not changing. Okay? So these require the hardest skill, knowing when to stop discussing. But stopping discussion isn't giving up, isn't choosing to invest improvement energy where change is actually possible. The framework gives teams a decision-making tool. This problem goes here, that problem goes there, and we invest our limited improvement capacity where it actually produces change. Here is what this prevents. It stops teams from spending retrospective times on things they cannot affect. It stops action items from dying because they require authority the team never had. And it stops the learning helplessness that comes from repeatedly identifying problems no one fixes. Okay, so in the next lecture, we'll deep dive into quadrant 1, the 80% focus zone where your team should concentrate improvement effort. Because once you master this distinction, retrospective stops being a therapy session and starts becoming execution engines. I'll see you there.